During dinner, my son-in-law laughed. "What's it like to be a loser?" Everyone laughed except me. I just smiled and asked, "How does it feel to know that this loser will no longer be paying your bills?" The moment those words left my mouth, my son-in-law Justin's face turned pale and the family table turned into a battlefield. You won't believe what he did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. "You know, David," Justin said, swirling the expensive Cabernet in his glass, the same Cabernet I had brought as a congratulatory gift. "Retirement must be nice. No pressure, no deadlines, no real responsibilities." I set down my fork carefully, the prime rib growing cold on my plate. Around the polished mahogany table, the one I'd helped Megan pick out last year, candles flickered in crystal holders. My daughter had outdone herself tonight, celebrating Justin's promotion to regional sales manager. "It has its moments," I replied, watching him take another generous gulp of wine. Justin leaned back in his chair, the one at the head of the table where he now preferred to sit during family dinners. "I mean, don't get me wrong, you had a decent run as an engineer, but that was what, 40 years ago? Different world now. Everything's digital, fast-paced. Takes a younger mind to really succeed." Megan shifted uncomfortably beside me, her bracelet, last Christmas's gift from me, catching the candlelight. "Justin, Dad had a wonderful career. He designed infrastructure that's still standing today." Sure, Justin waved dismissively. "But let's be honest. When was the last time you actually built something? Accomplished something significant?" My granddaughter Ava, only 9 years old, looked up from her chicken. "Grandpa built me a treehouse last summer." "That's sweet, honey." Justin patted her head patronizingly. "But Grandpa needs to understand that real men provide for their families through their own hard work. Not everyone can just coast through retirement, while others carry the weight." The silence stretched longer than comfortable. Megan's nervous laugh filled the void. "Maybe we should talk about something else. Ava, tell Grandpa about your piano recital." But Justin wasn't finished. The promotion had inflated him like a balloon, and the wine was making him bold. "Actually, I've been thinking. Now that I'm making real money, 6 figures, mark my words, it might be time for everyone to start pulling their own weight." I knew exactly what he meant. 15 years of mortgage help, school tuitions, car payments, medical bills, 15 years of watching him spend money like water while I quietly covered the shortfalls. "Take Megan, for instance," he continued, gesturing toward my daughter. "She's been out of the workforce so long, living off, well, let's call it family charity. Maybe it's time she rejoined the real world." Megan's face went pale. She knew, as I did, that their lifestyle depended entirely on my quiet support. The private school uniforms hanging in the mudroom, the lease on Justin's BMW, the kitchen renovation they'd completed last fall, all impossible without my help. Noah, my 12-year-old grandson, sensed the tension. "Are we in trouble, Dad?" "No, son, but it's important to understand the difference between earners and dependents, between providers and—" He looked directly at me. "Those who've given up trying." The insult hung in the air like smoke. Megan reached for her wine glass with trembling fingers. The children exchanged worried glances. Justin leaned forward, emboldened by what he mistook for my silence. I don't mean to be harsh, David, but someone needs to ask the hard questions. When was the last time you contributed something meaningful? When did you last feel the satisfaction of earning your own way instead of just existing? He paused for effect, savoring what he believed was his moment of dominance. How does it feel to be a failure? The question landed like a physical blow. Megan gasped. Noah's fork clattered against his plate. Ava started to cry, but I didn't flinch. I took a slow sip of water, set the glass down precisely, and looked Justin directly in the eyes. How does it feel? I said, my voice steady and clear. To know this failure won't be paying your bills anymore. The color drained from Justin's face faster than wine from a broken bottle. Megan's hand flew to her mouth. The children stared in confusion as their father's triumphant expression crumbled into something approaching panic. I continued eating my dinner, cutting each piece of meat with deliberate care, while the table sat in stunned silence. Outside, darkness was settling over the suburban neighborhood, and I could hear the distant sound of a neighbor's dog barking. After what felt like an eternity, I wiped my mouth with the linen napkin, stood, and kissed Ava and Noah goodbye. Thank you for dinner, Megan. It was delicious. I walked to the front door, grabbed my coat from the closet, and stepped into the cool evening, leaving behind a table full of people finally beginning to understand what 15 years of quiet generosity had actually meant. The 15-minute drive home passed in silence. My hands were steady on the steering wheel despite the storm brewing inside. I pulled into my driveway, the motion sensor light casting long shadows across the front steps. Inside, I hung my coat in the hall closet and walked directly to my study. The room smelled of old paper and furniture polish. I switched on the brass desk lamp, its warm glow illuminating 15 years of meticulously organized filing cabinets. As a retired engineer, I'd kept every receipt, every bank statement, every canceled check. Time to see exactly what my failure had cost me. I opened the first drawer, labeled 2009 to 2012. The folders were color-coded, blue for mortgage assistance, green for auto loans, yellow for school expenses, red for medical bills. My wife, Patricia, had died in late 2008, and by January 2009, Megan was already struggling. The first mortgage payment assistance, $2,800 in February, another $2,800 in March, and every month after. I spread the statements across my mahogany desk, the numbers forming neat columns under the lamplight. $2,800 every month for 180 months, $504,000 in mortgage assistance alone. Next came the car payments, Justin's BMW lease, Megan's SUV loan, $700 monthly for 8 years, another $115,200. The numbers climbed steadily. Private school tuition receipts filled an entire drawer. Noah's education from kindergarten through 7th grade, Ava's from preschool through 4th. Westfield Academy, with its swimming pools and foreign language programs, $24,000 annually, sometimes more for summer camps and extracurriculars. 16 years of education expenses, $192,000. Medical insurance premiums when Justin was between jobs, dental work, emergency room visits, Megan's therapy sessions after a divorce scare 3 years ago, Each manila envelope contained hundreds of co-payment receipts and insurance forms I'd quietly covered. $8,000 yearly for 15 years. $120,000. Vacation receipts tucked behind insurance papers. Disney World 2015. European Cruise 2018. Ski lodge rentals in Aspen. Christmas presents. Emergency car repairs. The down payment for Megan's kitchen renovation, another $45,000 in miscellaneous support. The final tally made me sit back in my leather chair. $976,200, nearly $1 million. For the first time since Patricia's funeral, I felt the full weight of the promise I'd made at her bedside. "Don't worry about Megan," I'd whispered to my dying wife. "I'll make sure she's secure." I remembered Megan's tears at the funeral, her panic about the mortgage she and Justin couldn't afford alone, how grateful she'd been then, calling weekly to thank me, sending homemade cookies, bringing the grandchildren for Sunday visits. When had the gratitude stopped? When had my help become expected rather than appreciated? I pulled out my personal financial statements, the ones showing my own sacrifices, the smaller retirement account because I'd postponed investing, the modest 2-bedroom home instead of the lakefront property I'd wanted, the 15-year-old truck in my garage while Justin drove luxury vehicles, the travel brochures I'd collected but never used because Megan always needed something, the hobbies I'd abandoned, the woman from church who'd stopped asking me to dinner because I was always helping family. I'd given them nearly $1 million in exchange for 15 years of my own dreams. At 10:30 p.m., I reached for my phone and bank contact list. Tomorrow would bring interesting conversations with automatic payment departments. Sunday morning coffee tasted different, somehow stronger. I sat at my kitchen table watching sparrows fight over crumbs outside the window, then returned to my study where neat stacks of documents waited like soldiers ready for deployment. First, Liberty Bank answered on the third ring. "Account services, this is Jennifer. How may I help you?" "I need to cancel automatic payments from checking account 45789942156. My voice carried the same steady tone I'd used for 40 years of engineering presentations. "May I have the last 4 digits of your Social Security number for verification?" The process took 12 minutes. Jennifer was thorough, professional, and completely unaware she was dismantling 15 years of financial architecture with each keystroke. "Those payments are now discontinued, Mr. Harlan. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "That's all. Thank you." Check mark. Next to mortgage assistance, $2,800 a month. The insurance company required a supervisor. The BMW lease payment cancellation needed 3 transfers. Each call followed the same pattern: polite verification, efficient processing, confirmation numbers I dutifully recorded in my notebook. By 11:15 a.m., I'd crossed off 8 items from my list. The phone rang at 11:47. "Dad?" Megan's voice carried confusion rather than panic. "Not yet." "Something weird happened with our mortgage payment. The bank called saying there were insufficient funds in the account. But that doesn't make sense because you assumed I'd keep paying forever." Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. "What do you mean?" Her voice climbed half an octave. "Exactly what I said last night. I'm no longer covering your expenses. But Dad, you can't just... The mortgage, the insurance, Noah's school, all discontinued as of this morning. I could hear her breathing quicken. This isn't funny. We'll lose the house. Then you'll need to figure out how to pay for it yourselves. The line went dead. My notebook showed 6 more calls to make. The utility companies were surprisingly efficient. Westfield Academy's accounting department asked fewer questions than I'd expected. Each confirmation number went into my log with mechanical precision. Megan called back at 12:23 p.m., her voice now tight with genuine fear. Dad, please, I don't understand what's happening. The school called, the insurance company, even the electric company, they're all saying our payments were declined because I canceled the automatic transfers from my accounts. Your accounts? The question came out as a whisper. Did you think these payments materialized from thin air, Megan? Another silence then. But we never asked you to. You never asked because you never had to. I simply did it. We can't afford. She stopped herself. Yes, I said quietly. That's the point. At 12:31, my phone rang again. This time, Justin's voice came through with forced authority. David, whatever game you're playing needs to stop right now. No game, just reality. You can't destroy our family because your feelings got hurt at dinner. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply stopping my financial support. You wanted to know how it feels to be a failure. Figure out your own bills. His silence lasted longer than Megan's had. The final call on my list was to my financial advisor. Monday morning, we'd discuss redirecting those monthly payments into my long-neglected retirement fund. Outside, the sparrows had found more crumbs. At 1:15 p.m., the familiar sound of Justin's BMW pulling into my driveway broke the afternoon quiet. Through my living room window, I watched him slam the car door with unnecessary force, while Megan emerged from the passenger seat, clutching her purse like a lifeline. They marched up my front walkway with the determined stride of people convinced they held the moral high ground. I opened the door before they could knock. We need to talk. Justin pushed past me without invitation, Megan trailing behind with red-rimmed eyes. Please come in, I said to their backs. Justin positioned himself in the center of my living room like a general claiming territory. This ridiculous tantrum of yours ends now. You will call those banks immediately and restore every single payment. No, I won't. His face flushed crimson. You can't just cut us off without warning. There are legal obligations, verbal contracts. Show me the contract where I agreed to pay your bills forever. Megan stepped forward, her voice trembling. Dad, please think about what Mom would want. Remember what you promised Patricia at her funeral? The mention of Patricia hit like a cold wind, but I'd expected this tactic. I promised to help you get stable. 15 years and nearly $1 million later, you're less stable than when we started. $1 million? Megan whispered. I walked to my desk, retrieved my calculator and notebook. $976,200. Mortgage assistance, car payments, insurance, school tuition, medical bills, vacations, emergencies. Should I break it down by category? Justin's bluster faltered for exactly 3 seconds. That's impossible. We never asked for that much. You never asked for anything. You simply expected it. Megan sank onto my couch, her face pale. But the children, Noah's baseball league, Ava's dance classes, we'll continue those, I said, but I'll pay them directly from now on. No more money flowing through you and Justin. You can't divide the family like that, Justin snapped. We're a unit, a team. Teams require mutual respect. When did either of you last thank me for anything? The question hung unanswered in the afternoon air. Megan's tears started slowly, then built to the desperate sobs I remembered from her teenage years. I didn't know it was so much. I thought you wanted to help. I thought it made you happy. It did, until you stopped appreciating it and started demanding it. Justin began pacing my carpet like a caged animal. Fine. You want gratitude? Thank you. There. Now restore the payments. Gratitude doesn't work retroactively, Justin. His pacing stopped. For the first time since entering my house, he looked genuinely worried, rather than merely angry. What exactly do you want from us? I want you to figure out how to live within your means. I want my grandchildren to see their parents working for what they have instead of expecting handouts. I want to be treated like a father and grandfather, not an ATM. Megan looked up through her tears. What if we can't? What if we lose everything? Then you'll learn what failure actually feels like. The silence stretched until even the afternoon shadows seemed to hold their breath. Justin straightened his shoulders, retrieving some of his corporate composure. We'll see about this. There are lawyers who specialize in elder financial abuse. I almost smiled. Please call them. I'd love to explain how I've been financially abused for 15 years. They left without another word, Justin's BMW roaring to life with more aggression than the engine probably appreciated. I stood at my window, watching them disappear down the street, and realized my hands were shaking. Silence filled my house like water flooding a broken dam. I collapsed into my leather armchair, the one Patricia had given me for our 20th anniversary, and stared at the wedding photo on the mantel. Megan's radiant smile, Justin's humble bow tie, Patricia's glowing face beside me. That was 2007. Justin worked at a small insurance company, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and called me Sir, with genuine respect. Mr. Harlan, he'd said during our first private conversation, I want you to know I'll take good care of Megan. I may not have much now, but I'm working hard to build something worthy of your daughter. The humility in his voice had been real. I'd believed him. 2 years later, Patricia was gone. Cancer took her in 4 brutal months, leaving Megan devastated and Justin scrambling to manage their modest mortgage on his entry-level salary. The 2009 recession had just hit, and his company was laying people off. At Patricia's funeral, Megan collapsed against my chest. Dad, I don't know how we'll manage. Justin's job isn't secure. The house payments... Don't worry, I'd whispered, holding my grieving daughter. I'll help until you get stable. Until you get stable, not forever. Those first years, Justin's gratitude was overwhelming. Handwritten thank you notes, weekend visits where he'd fix my gutters or mow my lawn. Megan called twice weekly just to check on me, bringing the grandchildren for Sunday dinners. Dad, you're literally saving our lives, she'd say, tears in her eyes. We'll pay you back when things improve. The first mortgage payment, $2,800. Just 6 months, Justin promised, until I get promoted. The car loan help, $450 monthly, just until we build equity. Noah's private school tuition, $2,000 monthly, just for kindergarten to give him a strong foundation. Each just until became permanent. Each temporary measure became expected. By 2012, the thank you notes had stopped. Justin's weekend visits became occasional appearances where he'd drink my beer and complain about his boss. Megan's grateful calls became monthly requests for additional help. "Dad, can you cover Ava's dance classes? It's only $200 a month." "Dad, the kids need new computers for school." "Dad, our vacation rental fell through. Can you help with a different place?" The word please disappeared first, then thank you. Finally, even can you became you need to. By 2018, Justin had stopped acknowledging my contributions entirely. At neighborhood barbecues, he'd brag about his house renovations, his children's private education, his successful lifestyle. When neighbors complimented his BMW, he'd beam with pride about his smart financial planning. Megan began defending him over me. When I gently suggested they try managing some expenses independently, she'd respond with irritation. "Dad, you don't understand modern family dynamics. Justin's under enormous pressure at work. The children have established routines. You can't just disrupt everything because you're feeling unappreciated." Unappreciated. The word had hit like a physical blow. Last Christmas, neither of them acknowledged my support. Justin gave a toast about his hard work providing for the family. Megan posted social media photos of their expensive gifts with hashtags about blessed family success. I'd sat in my small living room looking at their thank you cards from 2009, wondering when gratitude had calcified into entitlement. Now, sitting in the gathering dusk, I understood what Patricia would have wanted. Not endless enabling, but dignity. Not unlimited generosity, but respect. Outside, shadows stretched longer across my front yard, and somewhere in the distance, a phone began ringing. 3 days passed like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. Monday morning brought the first bank notifications. Megan called at 9:47 a.m., her voice thin with panic. "Dad, they're saying our mortgage payment failed. There's a $75 penalty fee. The bank wants $2,875 by tomorrow, or they'll start foreclosure proceedings." I said nothing. The silence stretched until she hung up. By noon, Justin's BMW lease company had left 2 voicemails about their missed $650 payment. Megan's SUV loan, another $480 monthly, bounced with a $50 penalty. Their homeowner's insurance lapsed at 3 p.m. when the automatic payment failed. Tuesday brought deeper water. Megan called again, this time with Justin shouting in the background. "We can't cover everything." Her voice cracked. "I applied at Target, Walmart, 3 restaurants. Even if I get hired immediately, they're offering $12 an hour. That's barely $2,000 a month before taxes." For the first time in 15 years, she was doing mathematics on her survival. Wednesday afternoon, I drove past Westfield Academy during pickup time. Noah and Ava stood with other children whose tuition payments had cleared. The school had called Megan that morning. $4,800 due immediately, or the kids would be withdrawn by Friday. That evening, my neighbor Mrs. Fletcher mentioned hearing raised voices from Megan's house during her walk. "Seems like financial troubles," she said sadly. The young man was yelling something about credit cards being maxed out. Thursday brought the crescendo. Megan's third call came at 2:15 p.m. "Dad, please, I went to 5 interviews yesterday. McDonald's, a cleaning company, a grocery store. They all want references from recent employers. I haven't worked since 2009. Her voice had lost its demanding edge, replaced by something I hadn't heard in years. Humility. "Justin tried to pay the mortgage yesterday. Our account has $3,000. The payment is $2,875. He paid it, then realized we couldn't cover utilities, groceries, or gas for the cars. He had to call the bank back and cancel the payment." I remained silent. "The BMW lease company scheduled a repossession for Monday. They're taking Justin's car unless we pay $650 plus a $200 reinstatement fee." More silence. "Dad." Her voice became very small. "I think we're going to lose everything." "Yes," I said quietly. "You probably are." She started crying then, deep, painful sobs that reminded me of her teenage heartbreaks. But this wasn't teenage drama. This was adult consequence. Friday morning, I sat in my study reviewing my redirected financial plan. Those monthly payments I'd been making would now go toward the European river cruise Patricia and I had planned before she got sick, the Italian cooking classes, the photography workshop in Scotland. My phone rang at 11:30. Justin this time. "David," his voice had none of its previous arrogance. "We need to talk." "We've talked." "No, we need to really talk as adults about how we can fix this situation." "You mean how I can fix your situation?" A long pause. "Yes, that's exactly what I mean." At least, he was finally being honest. "Come over Sunday afternoon, all of you. Bring the children." What should we prepare to discuss?" "Reality," I said, and hung up. Outside my window, the first spring flowers were beginning to push through the soil. Monday morning, my friend Gary from the hardware store called with concern. "David, I heard something troubling yesterday. Justin was at Riley's Tavern telling folks you cut off your family without warning. Said you're forcing the kids out of private school out of spite." I set down my coffee cup slowly. "What exactly did he say?" "Called it financial abandonment of innocent grandchildren. Used a lot of business terms. Made it sound like you're punishing Megan for something petty." By Tuesday, Megan had called my late wife's sister, Ellen. Ellen phoned me that afternoon, her voice tight with disapproval. "Megan says you've abandoned them in their time of greatest need." She was crying, David. She said the children don't understand why Grandpa doesn't love them anymore. "Did she mention the $976,000 I've given them over 15 years? Long silence. What?" "Nearly $1 million, Ellen. Mortgage payments, car loans, insurance, school, tuition, medical bills, vacations, every month for 15 years. That can't be right. I have documentation for every penny." The next morning, Ava called me. Her small voice was carefully rehearsed. "Grandpa, Mommy says we might lose our house because you don't want to help us anymore. Did we do something wrong?" My heart twisted, but I kept my voice gentle. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. Would you like me to pick you up for ice cream this afternoon? Mommy says you might say no to everything now. I never say no to ice cream with my granddaughter. That afternoon at Dairy Queen, Ava's scripted sadness melted away as she told me about her art project. When I dropped her off, Megan watched from the window with calculating eyes. Wednesday brought a more direct confrontation. Linda Brooks, a longtime neighbor, approached me at the grocery store. "David Harlan, I'm ashamed of you." Her voice carried across 3 aisles. "Cutting off your own daughter when she needs you most. What would Patricia think?" I faced her calmly. Patricia would think 15 years and nearly $1 million was generous enough. Linda's righteous anger faltered. $1 million? $976,200. Mortgage assistance, car payments, school tuition, insurance premiums, medical bills, vacation expenses. Would you like to see the bank records? Other shoppers had stopped to listen. Linda's face reddened. Megan mentions very little about what she receives, Linda. Only what she wants. That evening, Gary called again. Justin was back at Riley's tonight. Tried the same routine, but Mike Donovan was there. Remember Mike? He sold them that BMW 3 years ago. What did Mike say? Asked how Justin afforded a $60,000 car on his salary. When Justin started deflecting, Mike mentioned he remembered you co-signing the lease. The whole bar got quiet real fast. Thursday morning brought a call from my old engineering colleague Tom. Heard some interesting gossip at the coffee shop. Also heard your side from Gary. Mind if I ask you directly? Did you really support them for 15 years? Every month since Patricia died, and they never acknowledged it. Last Christmas, Justin gave a toast about his hard work, providing for the family. Megan posted photos of their expensive gifts on social media with hashtags about blessed family success. Tom whistled low. That's cold, David. Friday evening, I was reading in my study when my doorbell rang. Justin stood on my porch alone, his corporate confidence completely absent. His usual pressed shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, his face showing exhaustion I'd never seen before. "David, I need to talk to you. Just the two of us, man to man." I invited him into the living room, the same room where he had demanded I restore payments just 2 weeks ago. He sat heavily in the chair, his hands clasped tightly between his knees. "The foreclosure is real. 30 days. Megan's working 40 hours a week for $13.50 an hour. After taxes, that's maybe $1,100 a month. I'm bringing home about $5,800 monthly. The mortgage alone is $2,875. He looked up at me with something approaching humility. "We can't make it work. Not even close. We never could we? Without you, I mean." "No," I said quietly. "You never could." "I've been thinking about something you said, about earning respect versus inheriting it." His voice cracked slightly. "I never earned anything, did I? The house, the cars, the kids' schools, none of it was really mine." "What do you want from me, Justin?" "I want to know if there's a way back from this. Not back to how things were, but forward to something better." Outside, the streetlights were beginning to flicker on as darkness settled over our suburban neighborhood. Saturday afternoon, I was organizing my financial documents when the doorbell rang. Megan stood on my porch in her blue grocery store vest, her face streaked with tears. and exhaustion. "Dad, please, we need to talk about Noah and Ava." She looked different, smaller somehow. The entitled confidence I'd watched grow over 15 years had crumbled, leaving behind the frightened daughter I remembered from Patricia's funeral. I invited her into the living room. She collapsed into the same chair Justin had occupied the night before, her hands shaking as she pulled off her work name tag. "4 days," she whispered. "4 days until they complete the foreclosure. Noah keeps asking if we're really going to lose the house. Ava had nightmares last night about moving to a strange place." "What do you want from me, Megan?" "I want my children to have stability. I want them to finish the school year with their friends. I want Ava to sleep through the night without crying about leaving her bedroom." She looked up at me with eyes that held no trace of manipulation, only raw maternal desperation. "I've been working 40 hours a week on my feet, scanning groceries for people who used to be my friends. Yesterday, Mrs. Henderson came through my line and asked why I was working there. I wanted to crawl under the counter and disappear. But you didn't." "No. I smiled and asked paper or plastic because I finally understand what work means, what earning means, what you've been trying to teach us." She wiped her nose with a tissue from her purse. "Justin texted me about your conversation last night. He said you asked if there was a way forward." "There might be," I said, "but it would require significant changes from both of you. Tell me." I leaned forward in my chair. "I'll pay Noah and Ava's school tuition directly to Westfield Academy. I'll cover their clothing, medical expenses, sports activities, and music lessons. I'll establish college funds for both of them." Megan's face brightened with the first hope I'd seen in weeks. "But," I continued, "I won't pay your mortgage, car payments, insurance, or any adult lifestyle expenses. You and Justin will live within your actual means. Period." "We can do that. We'll downsize, find a smaller place." "There's more. I want public acknowledgement of the 15 years and $976,000 I've provided. I want sincere public apologies for the disrespect and entitlement. I want genuine gratitude, not just when you need something." Megan's face crumpled. "Justin will never agree to public apologies. His pride—" "Then his pride is more important than his children's stability." We sat in silence while she processed this reality. "What kind of public acknowledgement?" "A letter to the community newspaper explaining how I've supported your family and thanking me for my generosity. An honest Facebook post about 15 years of financial help. Face-to-face apologies to the people you've lied to over the past 2 weeks. And if we do this, all of it, the children will have educational security and their grandfather's love. You'll have a relationship with me based on honesty and mutual respect, but you'll also have a lifestyle limited by what you and Justin actually earn." Megan covered her face with her hands. "I don't know if I can convince him." "You have 48 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires." She stood slowly, her grocery vest wrinkled from the long day. At the door, she turned back. "Dad, thank you for still caring about Noah and Ava." "I never stopped caring about any of you, Megan. I just stopped enabling you." After she drove away in the old Civic, I sat in my living room watching the evening news. Somewhere across town, a very difficult conversation was about to begin. Megan's Civic pulled into their driveway at 5:30 p.m. Through my neighbor Gary's later account, I learned how the evening unfolded. Justin was heating leftover pizza when Megan entered the kitchen, still wearing her grocery vest. He looked up from the microwave, noting her red-rimmed eyes and exhausted posture. "Where have you been? Your shift ended at 3. "I went to see Dad." The microwave beeped in the silence that followed. Justin pulled out the steaming pizza, set it on the counter, and turned to face his wife fully. "You went behind my back after everything we discussed about handling this together. We're out of time, Justin. 4 days until foreclosure. The children are terrified. I had to try something." Megan sank into a kitchen chair, pulling off her name tag with trembling fingers. "He's willing to help, but there are conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "He'll pay for Noah and Ava's school, clothes, activities, medical expenses. He'll set up college funds for both of them." Justin's face brightened. "That's fantastic. When does he restart the mortgage payments?" "He doesn't. We have to live on what we actually earn." The brightness faded instantly. "That's impossible. You know our expenses." "He wants something else, too." Megan's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Public apologies. Acknowledgement of the 15 years and $976,000 he supported us." Justin's face went white, then red. "He wants me to humiliate myself publicly, admit I've been what? A charity case?" "Justin." She stood up slowly, her grocery vest wrinkled and stained. "He spent nearly $1 million on us. $1 million. Do you understand what that means?" "It means he chose to help family. That's what fathers do." "No, that's what saints do. And we treated him like an ATM." From upstairs came the sound of Noah's voice calling down, "Mom, Dad, why are you yelling?" Both parents stopped, realizing their voices had risen. Ava appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Are you fighting about Grandpa again?" Megan climbed the stairs to comfort her daughter while Justin paced the kitchen, his hands clenched into fists. When Megan returned 20 minutes later, she found him staring at the foreclosure notice on the counter. "I won't do it," he said without looking up. "I won't stand in front of our neighbors and admit I'm a failure who couldn't provide for his own family." "Then what's your solution? Where are we going to live? Where will the children go to school?" "We'll figure something out. Get a loan. File for bankruptcy. Something. Anything but crawling to your father and begging forgiveness for imaginary sins." Megan pulled out her phone and opened the calculator app. "Okay, let's figure it out. Our combined monthly income is $6,900. The mortgage is $2,875. That leaves $4,025 for everything else." She continued typing numbers. "Car payment for the Civic, $350. Insurance, $250. Utilities, $300. Groceries, $600. Gas, $200. That's $1,700, leaving us $2,325. See, we can make it work. I haven't added the children's expenses yet. Noah's baseball league, $120 monthly. Ava's dance classes, $80. Both kids' school supplies, clothes, medical co-pays, birthday parties, Christmas gifts. Megan's voice cracked. "Justin, we can't afford our children." Through the thin walls, Noah's voice drifted down again. "Mom, Ava's crying. She says we're going to be homeless." Megan looked at her husband with eyes that held no trace of the entitled woman who had demanded her father restore their payments 2 weeks ago. "We have 36 hours to decide. Dad's offer expires Monday at noon." She walked upstairs to comfort her children, leaving Justin alone in the kitchen with the foreclosure notice and a calculator that couldn't make their impossible mathematics work. Monday morning at 10:15, the Civic pulled into my driveway carrying all 4 of them. Through my front window, I watched Justin emerge from the passenger seat with the defeated posture of a man who'd spent the night staring at ceilings. Megan knocked on my door, flanked by Noah and Ava in their school clothes. Justin stood behind them, his business shirt wrinkled, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Dad, we need to accept your offer, all of it." I invited them into the living room. The children settled on my couch, while Megan took the same chair she'd occupied Saturday. Justin remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back like a defendant awaiting sentencing. "The bank called this morning," Megan continued. "Foreclosure completes at 3 p.m. unless we pay $8,625. We don't have it." Ava tugged on my sleeve. "Grandpa, are we really going to lose our house?" "Not if I can help it, sweetheart." Justin cleared his throat. "David, I need to say some things." He walked to my mantel, studied the wedding photo of Patricia and me, then turned to face his family. 15 years ago, you offered to help us temporarily. I took that help and turned it into a permanent arrangement without ever acknowledging what you were sacrificing." His voice cracked slightly. "I told people the house renovations were for my success at work. I bragged about the cars like I'd earned them. I let Noah and Ava think their grandfather was just being nice instead of being their actual provider." Megan reached over and took Ava's hand. "Dad, I owe you apologies too. I took your generosity and treated it like inheritance, like something I deserved instead of something you chose to give." "You paid our mortgage for 15 years, Justin added. $504,000. You paid our car loans, insurance, school tuition, medical bills, vacations, Christmas gifts, birthday parties, dance classes, baseball leagues." Noah looked up with wide eyes. "Grandpa paid for my baseball?" "Grandpa paid for everything," Megan said quietly. "Almost $1 million over 15 years. Ava's small voice cut through the heavy air. "Why didn't you tell us?" Megan's face crumpled. "Because we were ashamed, not of Grandpa's help, but of how we acted like we didn't need it." I leaned forward in my chair. "If I help you keep the house today, things will be different. I'll pay Noah and Ava's school tuition directly to Westfield Academy. I'll cover their medical expenses, clothing, activities, and college funds. But I won't pay your mortgage, car payments, or any adult lifestyle expenses. You'll live on what you actually earn." Justin nodded slowly. "We understand." "There's more. I want public acknowledgement. A letter to the community newspaper thanking me for 15 years of support. Social media posts expressing genuine gratitude. Face-to-face apologies to the neighbors you've lied to." "When?" "This week, before Saturday." Justin's jaw tightened, but he nodded again. "What else?" "Monthly family dinners here. Not to report your finances, but to maintain proper relationships. To remember that family means respect, not entitlement. I stood and walked to my desk, pulling out my checkbook. I'm going to call Liberty Bank and arrange an emergency payment. But this is the last mortgage payment I ever make for you. After today, you sink or swim on your own income. As I dialed the bank, I heard Ava whisper to her mother, "Are we going to be okay now?" Megan's voice was soft, but certain. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine." For the first time in 15 years, I believed she was right. 3 months later, on the third Saturday of June, they arrived for our monthly family dinner at exactly 2 p.m. Megan had been promoted to shift supervisor at the grocery store, earning $15.50 an hour. Justin had learned to balance their budget without expecting miracles. Ava bounded through my front door in her soccer uniform, grass stains on her knees, and a medal around her neck. "Grandpa, look what I won at the tournament." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me about the winning goal." While Ava regaled me with athletic heroics, Noah showed me his report card, straight A's, and a note from his teacher praising his improved attitude and confidence. Megan set a manila folder on my coffee table. "Dad, here's this month's budget review. We're covering the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and car payment entirely from our combined salaries. We even started a small emergency fund." Justin, who 3 months ago couldn't look me in the eye, now contributed to our discussions with genuine respect. "David, I wanted to ask your advice about a potential promotion opportunity at work. The regional director position might open up next quarter. More responsibility, better salary, but also travel. I wanted to make sure Megan and I could handle the children's schedules if I'm away occasionally." I opened my own folder, organized with typical engineer precision. Noah's soccer league fee paid directly to Colorado Youth Sports. Ava's piano lessons handled through Mountain Music Academy. Both children's dental checkups scheduled for next month, covered under my family plan. Megan smiled, a genuine expression I hadn't seen in years. "Dad, I can't thank you enough for keeping their lives stable while we figured out how to be actual adults." "Speaking of being adults," Justin added, "we completed the community service hours Judge Martinez assigned after our public apology letters. Volunteering at the food bank was enlightening. We met families genuinely struggling, not just living beyond their means like we were." Ava tugged on my sleeve. "Grandpa, can we show you the thank you cards we made?" Both children produced construction paper cards decorated with glitter and heartfelt messages. Noah's read, "Thank you for taking care of us even when Mom and Dad forgot to say please." Ava's was simpler. "I love you, Grandpa. You're the best." These weren't coached expressions or guilt-driven apologies. These were the authentic words of children who finally understood what love and security actually meant. "There's something else," Megan said quietly. "Justin and I have been talking about eventually buying a smaller house, something we can actually afford on our own income. Not immediately, but maybe in 2 years when we've built more savings." "That sounds like good planning," I said. Justin nodded. "We want to prove we can stand on our own feet, not because we don't appreciate your help with the kids, but because we need to respect what you've already given us." As the afternoon wound down, Noah asked the question that summarized everything. "Grandpa, Are you proud of us now? I looked around my living room at my daughter, who had learned the value of work, my son-in-law, who had swallowed his pride for his children's sake, and my grandchildren, who finally understood gratitude. Yes, Noah, I'm very proud of all of you. They left as the sun was setting, Ava's hand in mine as I walked them to their car, the same Civic that had replaced the BMW. But somehow it looked less like a downgrade and more like a choice made with wisdom. Watching their tail lights disappear down my street, I realized Patricia would have been proud too. Not of the money I'd spent or the control I'd finally asserted, but of the family we'd become when respect replaced entitlement and love replaced exploitation. The revenge I'd sought wasn't punishment. It was transformation. And sometimes that's the sweetest justice of all. If this one hit you in the feels, smash that like button, subscribe, drop where you're watching from, and I'll see you in the next one.